I want the bets from Betting Weekly, because we win, that is our motto. Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't win. Don't give us the bird, don't give us your stink eye. We try our best, and we're successful. Come watch our show. Bet River sponsors. It's time to start. Enjoy the show.
Welcome along to Betting Weekly Live. You're with Dan Roebuck and James Eastham. On the agenda today, as it was last Thursday, we're talking soccer and Europa League qualifiers, second leg, Q3. We have got a word on the conference games, but we're not going to go through them. There is lots of them. James, how's it going? Before we get into the qualifiers, need to ask your opinion on Paris Saint-Germain last night. Obviously, really good preview from Nigel and Steve yesterday, although they both thought that PSG would win easy. But there's a lot of people in the YouTube comments saying, these Super Cups, they end up as a draw and they go to penalties, which is what happened. I mean, PSG looked undercooked, but still lifted the trophy in the end. And I'm thinking, do we start to think about fading them maybe for the first few weeks of the season? Don't know.
Well, I thought we learned a lot about them last night, Dan. 3 things came to mind for me. The first was they looked tired. This is a side that only had 3 weeks of holiday after the Club World Cup final on July the 13th. They've been back in training for only a week before the game last night. So this is a tired squad of players. The second was they do have some decent subs, don't they? They brought people off the bench who helped to turn the game. Ibrahim Mbaye is an exciting young player, and Kangin Lee has been a really useful squad player now for a couple of seasons. So they're my 2 big takeaways from the game, especially going into their first league game this weekend away at Nantes on Sunday night. I'm expecting a lot of rotation from PSG in that game. I think Luis Enrique will look at it and think it's a good opportunity to rest some of the big names. We saw Gonzalo Ramos. I should give him a mention as well, because I've tipped him up in the newsletter to score at the weekend. I think he's exactly the type of player we'll see brought into the starting lineup maybe this weekend and also over the next 4 or 5 weeks. So they're my 2 big learnings really from the game. The third one would be, this is a team that wants to win every single competition they're in. To be 2-0 down with 5 minutes on the clock and win it, I think that shows the mentality they've instilled over the last 12 to 18 months. So yeah, plenty of learnings, but the main 2 for me are about team news. And we'll obviously be doing that, won't we, Dan, on the weekly show. We'll be looking at PSG and week to week, how much will they rotate and how many of those star players are actually going to play through the rest of August?
Going to be interesting. We are recording the European show tomorrow. It'll be out around about midday Eastern tomorrow. Just speaking of that Spurs game, some really nice bets from Bet Rivers customers. $8,000 play on Tottenham versus PSG, over 3 Asian total. Well, you were sweating on that one, but you got over the line at -127. Well done. $50 on Tottenham PSG full-time draw at 20-1. Very nice indeed. But again, the late goal's coming to your rescue. And a $200 play on PSG to win the trophy. This was in play at +1,500. Wow. So, that is a real shrewd that's a real shrewd in-play call. Watching the game, thinking, well, they could get back to 2-0 here, could go to penalties, who knows? 15-1 for a side that was massive minus money to lift the trophy. So some really good bets on the PSG Spurs game. Unfortunately, not for me, and I suspect quite a lot of our commenters as well. Ray Burke, hello to you. Tristan, howdy folks, and to you as well. Dave said morning. Got to come back with Shakhtar today. They were so close to winning that away game last week. Yeah, we were on draw no bet, weren't we? Tie no bet last week. A says hi both. Yeah, made a loss on the PSG, clawed a little bit back with Sheffield Wednesday to qualify. Yeah, we looked at that one against Bolton, didn't we? Or at least Nigel and Steve did. Gordon says Ken Hammerby on the money line to follow today. FGA says they need to start Ramos first goal scorer. He must be
Yes.
fed up as a sub. Is he one of those players that you think he'll be happy to stay on the bench, or does he want to?
Yeah.
Does he want to start?
I think he wants to stay, Dan. He certainly said that. And I think he's such a huge asset for PSG. When you've got a guy like Ousmane Dembele, who now is the number 9 and going to start every game, I think Gonzalo Ramos is about as good a backup number 9 as you can have at a top level club. It'd be very difficult to replace him. So, yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think he's a guy who was really good for goals in League One last season. And if you want to rest Dembele, what a great player to be able to bring into the starting lineup.
It is strange because towards the back end of the season, we always kept wondering, are they going to rest players? And generally they didn't. They did in the odd game very late on, but generally it was just like, I'm playing my best team. Maybe he's going to tweak it a little bit this season. We shall see. ZT says FCSB on the money line. Don't get me on FCSB. I mean, they're a big price. We'll talk about them in a bit. Both teams to score yes in that game. Plus 275. I think that's the little parlay, isn't it? For that one. The real Brendan King, hi from Toronto. Welcome back to James. Philly guy says, always love seeing James on the show. He's just a tremendous capper. Such a humble guy. I know he doesn't like the praise, but he's one of the best cappers around.
Very kind words. Thank you very much. No, it's great to be here. Listen, this is hopefully the start of a long run in this competition. I know I'm on with you, Dan, this week and last week. Steve will be doing the show as well, but this is one of the competitions I really like. So great to be here.
We're going to roll through all of the UEL games today, so Europa League games. We're going to talk about. James has got a few picks and leans in a few of them. I'll give you my thoughts as well. Midtjylland versus Fredrikstad. Most of the money has come for the overs here, interestingly, on this one. Midtjylland are short price favourites. They're minus 250. They're 3-1 up from the away leg. I can't see anything other than Midtjylland qualifying. I tend to think, though, I don't know about you, James, Midtjylland might sort of look to control this game. They're 3-1 up. They don't need to win. Fredrikstad are not on Midtjylland's quality line by any stretch of the imagination here. How do you see this? Any leans in the Midtjylland game?
Yeah, I agree. No leans for me, no picks. I don't like to back sides who are obviously the better side at home, as Midtjylland are, when they have a 2-goal lead from the first leg. I just feel too much risk attached to it because, as you say, Dan, why would Midtjylland go all out to win it? They don't need to. They probably will look to control the game. They'll probably look to conserve energy. So I think the prices there are absolutely right. Midtjylland as clear favourites is absolutely fair, but I wouldn't want to get involved in it. And on the goals, again, I don't have a strong view there, but if I was forced to pick between the two prices we're looking at there, over 3.5 or under 3.5, I'd lean towards unders.
Same.
For the simple reason that Midtjylland are going to start off and say, well, come and have a go. You know, why do we need to go out and attack you? So if Fredrikstad were to get a goal, it would change the dynamic of that game dramatically. If that were to happen, or even if Midtjylland were to get the goal, which could be a really demoralising blow for Fredrikstad, I think there's more reasons why it probably won't go overs than will go under. So that's my view on the goal line, but don't have a strong view on it because, as I say, these ties where it feels like they're almost over from the first leg and the favourites are now at home, it's very difficult to take a strong view when they're priced up as this one is.
Look, just some stats for you here that I was looking at. Over 3.5 in Midtjylland's home games in Europe. Last 9, it's only gone over once. The Asian line is 3.25 at minus 125. I mean, it's a half win if there's 3 goals in the game. And Fredrikstad away from home this season in the Norwegian League failed to score in 4 of 8. In 6 of 8, you would have got a full win going under 3.25. It's just one of those games. The Danish side can control it. No need to win it. I think it'll be fairly straightforward for them, but we shall see. That game kicking off pretty soon, incidentally, at midday. Tentative lean for under 3.25 on the Asian line, incidentally. 4 of Midtjylland's last 7 matches across all competitions, incidentally, have resulted in a draw, if you're looking at something on the money line. Brann against Hacken. This is another one. It's sort of same rules apply, James, isn't it, really? Because Brann are leading 2-0 from the first leg. I mean, we thought overs in the first leg. Brann were 2 up just before the hour. We didn't get the third goal. Brann with a better team, more possession, more shots on target, higher XG. And you think to yourself, well, if that's the case, why aren't I playing minus 129 here? That's a palatable price for a team that looks, in all those stats categories, to be the better side. They're higher ranked Opta as well. They're at home, but then you look at the tie state and you think they don't need to win. That's the issue. Any thoughts?
That's the issue. I think the most interesting thing about this price is the comparative with the Midtjylland game, where you do have a Brann team who are in exactly the same position with a 2-goal lead, and yet they are better odds than Midtjylland. They're not as clear to win the game in the way that the market has made it up. I'm not quite sure why that is. I mean, you can argue Hacken are maybe more difficult opponents, even if it didn't look that way last week. But same view as the previous match, the Midtjylland game. I would not want to get involved with a side who are, yes, almost certainly going to go through and could quite probably win on the night when they have a 2-goal lead from the first leg. There's just too much risk attached to it for me. They take a 1-1 draw. They'd probably be disappointed if they drew it 1-1, but they take it because of the tie state, as you say. So makes it very difficult, I think, for bettors to really invest too much in these sort of matches which are over 2 legs and which feel as though they're almost done and dusted. That's how I see this one.
Yeah, look, Brad Betts Footy has got the line. It's hard to bet a team to win when they don't need to win based on the goal difference from the first leg. It is hard. One thing I would say, I mean, all the overstats still stand up. We rattled through the overstats last week, all the expected goals, all their average goals. You might want to get involved, but the line is high at over 3.5. One thing I would say, if Hacken do score first, Brann has got the best points per game at home when conceding first in their league this season. So if Hacken score, it might be one to get involved with in play if you like that type of thing. But it's a game I'm going to leave alone.
Yeah.
Likewise, this Noah Lincoln. Are we going to do Noah Lincoln? What have you got next on our screen? Yeah, Noah Lincoln. This is another one, isn't it? Really slightly different in terms of game stakes. Obviously, it was 1-1 in Gibraltar. Noah are the higher ranked team by a stretch. They're minus 345 here to beat the Gibraltar side. They should win. I mean, we tentatively looked at both teams to score, didn't we, last week, James? Have you got any line in about Noah Red Imps?
Yeah, we did, didn't we? Well, my line on this was I was really keen before seeing any prices to get on FC Noah here on the Asian handicap. My reason for that being partly what I flagged up last week. I was quite impressed by Noah in Europe last season. I thought they gave a pretty good account of themselves. And the second reason I was looking to be with them this week was, if you look at some of the top line stats last weekend, it finished 1-1, but they were the more dangerous side. They had 7 shots on target, whereas Lincoln Red Imps had just 2. The minute I saw the prices, that went straight out of the window because Noah are a little bit shorter than I was expecting. I'm not surprised at all they're minus money or favourites, but give you an example of what the prices are. If you look on the handicap, Noah minus 1 Asian handicap is minus 225. So really, they're only worth backing here if you're somebody who thinks that Noah are going to win this game by a couple of goals. And I'm not confident enough in that happening to take that bet. So it's the prices for me that render this a game to leave alone. I think Noah are very likely to go through, but at those prices, I would not be getting involved with it.
Just going back to teams leading from the first leg, Dave Clark saying, lost taking Istanbul, same position yesterday. Steve is with us as well. Peter talking about any moneyline pies at the end, combined Europa League and Conference League. Got some, not game thoughts on the Conference League, but James has got some general thoughts. Legia against Larnaca over 2.75. We'll get to that game. A lot to talk about in that game. did my absolutes last week in that one.
Yeah.
Just one other thing about the Noah game that I looked at, and I'm on the same sort of trend as you. I think minus 139 to be leading at half-time is not the worst. They've got a very good record domestically. 20 from 30 they were leading at half-time in their domestic league last season, 11 from 15 at home. What's the standard of the Armenian league versus the standard of the Gibraltar champions? It's not quite as good as would you believe, but we're in the same ballpark here.
Yeah.
So you'd like to think that they'd be looking to get off to a good start. Minus 139. They did score first in the game last week. Red Imps equalised sort of 9 minutes into added on time at the end of the first half. But I'd look at that one if I was looking for a bet. That is the Red Imps away at Noah. And just finally on this page, we've got Breidablik against Zrinjski Mostar, one that I got completely wrong last week because I think both of us thought that that Zrinjski Mostar would win easily, but they didn't. But I think there might be a bit of an overreaction in terms of price here, James. I mean, Breidablik, who were beaten by Valur, who are league leaders in Iceland at the weekend, they're plus 107. They haven't created a lot in terms of XG the last couple of games. They've lost one and they've drawn one. I think if I had to, I'd look at Mostar on the Asian line at a quarter ball start at minus 115. Any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I think that would be fair. I think they're not out of it. They'll probably be disappointed with the scoreline from that first leg. I think I flagged up Breidablik's away form has been poor. On that basis alone, I think the hosts from last week will have been disappointed they didn't win. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a similar sort of game, as in quite close, quite tight. And I quite like the goals here. It's quite a big differential there between the overs price of plus 110 and the unders of minus 141. It maybe gives you an option to back over 2.25 at minus money, but at not bad odds. You can back both teams to score yes at minus 117 on this game if you think that maybe another 1-1 game, same as we had last week, is on the cards. So yeah, I don't have a pick on it and I don't have a lean, but I think it's one of the more interesting second legs we're facing because it is obviously still wide open.
Now, just a reminder that we do have our Betting Weekly newsletter. So if you like what you hear on our shows, sign up for the newsletter, get exclusive tips and the free Insider magazine as well. Sign up for free, bettingweeklystudios.com. We have got a soccer profit boost pack as well. Log into your BetRivers app or betrivers.com account each week to receive a soccer profit boost pack consisting of a live bet profit boost and a parlay profit boost. Head to the app or the website and you will get all the details of that. A lot of offers coming your way, courtesy of our friends at BetRivers. Lots of live streaming as well. We've been talking about these Europa League qualifier matches. All 11 today are streamed on the app. We've got 27 conference qualifiers that are streamed as well. Plenty in South America, 3 Copa Libertadores and 3 Copa Sudamericana matches as well. And an awful lot of tennis. WTA in Cincinnati. Watch out for Nigel and Sean and all the rest of the tennis gang with various shows looking at that big event we're bringing up to the US Open, of course. Let's get some official plays, shall we? That's if we have official plays on the live show. I'm never quite sure if we do, but James has got a strong view on the next game we're going to take a look at here. And I mean, you persuaded me last week to bet this, which was a winner. And when you put it up in our WhatsApp group, I thought, well, I'll have a look at the stats. And I think this is a terrific bet. It's the one we're going to look at. Oh, hang on a minute. Where is it? That's not the right one. There we go. This is the right one. Wolfsberger against PAOK.
Yes.
And first leg, I mean, last week, what did you put up here? You put up Wolfsberger +1 on the Asian line at minus 127. And it was a 0-0 draw last week. And you're going to go in again here, James?
Yes, I'm going to go in again on Wolfsberger because they got the job done for us last week. And we had a bit of chat with the viewers last week about which handicap line to take on Wolfsberger, +1 or +1.25. There are both options. My feeling last week that the game was going to be closer than the market felt because my view was Wolfsberger had made a pretty good start to the season and they had actually started their season, which is something that PAOK hadn't done and still haven't done. So I saw how it went last week and I thought Wolfsberger did really well. And so I'm surprised to find them such big underdogs here for the second leg. +235 to win the game, which has actually moved out. It was +200 yesterday. There's been a big move on PAOK to win the match. So I'm happy to back them again. So, you know, I wouldn't necessarily back them to win it, but I think backing them on the Asian handicap, backing them Tino bet, something like that would be the way to play. Because I don't think these prices really reflect how that first leg went last week when, as I say, Wolfsberger did a little bit better than a lot of people expected. Now, there are a couple of things are worth flagging up here. The first is that Wolfsberger are not playing this game at their normal home stadium. They're playing it an hour away in Klagenfurt. So you can argue that's a disadvantage for Wolfsberger. And I think that would be fair, although I should say, I think playing at a different venue within your own country like that is probably less of a disadvantage when you're playing a team from a different country altogether than if it was a league game, for example, and you're playing away from your normal stadium. So it will be a factor, but I don't think it's a huge one. The second factor, which we flagged up last week, and we should reiterate, is PAOK are the bigger of the two sides here. If people are coming to these two teams fresh, don't know a lot about them, the away team definitely have better European pedigree. And I think that is being worked into some of the prices here. I think the market is expecting them to do better than they did last week. But I tend to think that the form that we've seen since the start of the season from Wolfsberger is the main factor here. They were really good, as I say, in that first leg last week to get the 0-0 draw. They won the game on expected goals. PAOK created very little. And Wolfsberger still have the advantage of being into their new season, which doesn't apply to their opponents. So I do have a pick on the game. My pick, as I say, it would be to be with Wolfsberger. You can get them tie no bet at plus money here. So you'd get your stakes back if it ends in a draw. You would win if they win the game. It was plus 108 yesterday. It's going to be bigger than that now because the money's been with PAOK. So I think it's one of those games where the market is essentially saying, listen, I don't think the favourites from last week will play as badly this week. Maybe that'll be the case, but I think it's a good opportunity to back Wolfsberger here, 2 out of 2 legs, because they appear to me to be underrated by the market.
Just to back up what you're saying about this, I looked at some of the stats from the first game. Expected goals, 0.3 PAOK, 0.94 Wolfsberger. PAOK didn't have a shot on target. And Wolfsberger won at Austria Vienna at the weekend. They were around about plus 250. Well, they're only a little bit short here. They are outplaying their odds. They have won the XG battle in every single game that they've played so far this season in Europe and domestically. And maybe PAOK are just a little bit undercooked. They played 8 away games in Europe last season. They lost 4. There's a lot of good sense suggesting that price is too big. The one that I quite like is plus 125 Wolfsberger to go through. So you've got got the draw on. So you got your penalty shootout on side as well there. I mean, you can do the draw no bet for sure. I like that one. Get a quarter ball handicap on your side. You can also have them to go through at plus 125. Covers a whole manner of bases, doesn't it? That, but yeah, yes. I think we're all on the Wolfsberger train for sure. Whether we are on the FCSB train, I'm not quite so sure. I know this is just a little bit of a lean from you, but we have got a full frame graphic for you nonetheless. Thanks, Chris, by the way. I keep getting rid. I can't play football like Perlo, that's for sure. This is an interesting one. FCSB have been a bit of a bugbear of mine of all of these qualifiers because I've got them wrong more than I've got them right. Last week, against Drita, I said 2 bets and I had 2 bets. First of all, I had Drita plus 1.5 on the handicap, which won, and I also did unders, which lost. And when they were leading 2-0, I thought, crikey, I should have just bet them on the money line. They were a massive price. But FCSB came back 1-3-2. They were 2 down, came back 1-3-2, but they're having a shocking season. They were beaten by Under Air at the weekend. They've lost, 5 of the last 6 now in all competitions. I can't get them right. Ratings-wise, minus 114 probably is a bet, but I am going to leave this one alone. You've got a little bit of a lean for us, James, in this one.
Yeah, a little lean, which is on the over goals. So you can see the prices there, and over goals at minus 105 is the underdog of 2. Under 2.5 goals is the favourite at minus 125. I'm surprised by that, and primarily on the first leg last week rather than anything deeper. But I think when you have these games which have got a great big swing in them, as the first leg did last week, and plenty of goals, with obviously 5 goals in 90 minutes there, I think it tends to encourage the side that have lost to just have a real go, because they'll feel that this is a winnable tie. Will Drita, they're at home, they're a goal down, they've got to go for it at some stage. And I just felt that there was a lot about that first leg that pointed towards goals here. Obviously, there's more to it than just how many are scored, but there were also 11 shots on target in that first leg last week. So it's a pretty open contest. And as I say, it's not one of those ties that we've already mentioned where one of the sides can just control the game because they've got a 2 or 3 goal lead. This is one of the ties which is very different, where you've got the home side here chasing a 1 goal deficit and probably going to try and make it an open game because they've got to take a few risks. So it's only a lean rather than a pick, but I'm slightly surprised that the overs is minus 105 there. On the goal line, I'd certainly be looking to overs rather than unders.
Check out if you can if you can watch this game, which you can obviously on the BetRivers app. It'd be worth trying to get hold of the lineup and work out where certain players are playing, because myself and Will White talked about Florian Tanasa a few weeks ago. He was a central striker a few years ago. He scored 24 and 19 goals in back-to-back seasons. He can play a little bit deeper. He scored a hat-trick against Dinamo Bucharest in a league game a couple of weeks ago. He's plus 350, plus 380 to score at any time. He might play a little bit more withdrawn now because he's not as young as he once was, but he might be a bit of an interest if you're looking for an anytime goal scorer play in that Drita game. I mean, interestingly, most of the money has come for the overs as well. Just to bear out what you were saying, 95% of the money on overs, and the over 2.5 goals market has hit in 4 of FCSB's last 5 qualifying matches. So it's an odd one, isn't it, in terms of the way they've priced it. I know we talked about Drita with unders last week, but this is second leg Q3. The sort of tie state may well have just moved on a little bit. Let's talk our way through the rest of the games here. Maccabi, Tel Aviv, Hamrun, I'm going to talk about first of all here. This was an interesting one, and I'll probably end up playing this one. It's 2 p.m. Eastern. Maccabi Tel Aviv rank 126 in the Opta rankings. Hamrun, the Maltese side, rank 1,148.
Wow.
Tel Aviv are minus 625. However, Maccabi Tel Aviv won the away game 2-1. This game isn't being played in Israel. As we know, they play matches in various countries in Europe. This one's been playing in Serbia at the TSC Arena. They only had 2 shots on target, and they won 2-1, Maccabi Tel Aviv. And Hamrun had more of the ball, more possession, outshot the Israelis 10-6. And at +2 on the Asian line at minus 130, I might have a bit of fun with that because they can still lose. They can lose 2-0 and you get your money back. Any thoughts on the Maccabi Tel Aviv game, James?
Yeah, no thoughts on this, primarily because I don't feel I know either of these teams well enough, but I did notice that.
Neither do I, but it doesn't stop me.
They did kind of stand out on those stats that you've mentioned there. I had all the shots on target stats and where I could get hold of them, all the expected goal stats from the first leg last week. Maccabi Tel Aviv were a standout because of their 2 goals from 2 shots on target, which is quite unusual, not just in this competition generally, but in football generally. So it did give me pause for thought on the game, what actually happened in this. And then I dug into it a little bit more and I thought, well, the prices for me they're so big. Sometimes it's like, well, I'm not quite sure what to make of this, where the market says there's such a clear favourite. And the first leg looks as though it was fairly close. That actually feeds into your lean there, Dan. I mean, because I looked at the stats and thought a close game, and you've got a minus 670 favourite in the second leg. So it's an odd one. Again, some of those underlying form stats which feed into those rankings will be taken into account. The market will think, well, hang on a minute, we've got a huge disparity in real underlying quality here between the two sides. Let's not overlook that. So in the end, I just left this alone. But it's one of those which is going to be an interesting watch because it's one of the ties which is certainly still very much alive.
Chris says, wouldn't fancy playing James at chess or poker. He's a shrewd cookie, the schemer's schemer. And then this is an interesting turn of phrase from Steve Gregory. I've not heard this one before, but I'm going to use it, Steve. I'm nicking it. He said, could peel an orange in his back pocket.
Oh, wow.
Love that one.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm having that, Steve. Right, Shakhtar Panathinaikos next. Shakhtar minus 137, Pana plus 330. Look, we didn't lose anything on this one last week. A lot of us, a lot of people watching it, myself included, we followed James in here. We went tie no bet. We got our money back. Shakhtar are minus 137 to win the return. This one's in Poland. It's in Krakow. Shakhtar had more of the ball, but Pana had more shots. I mean, they created quite a lot against Rangers, but they got knocked out. They had 34 shots over 2 legs, but got knocked out in the Champions League qualifier. They dropped down into the Europa League. I mean, as we talked about last week, James, Shakhtar came through a tough UEL round the previous round, beating Besiktas. That's a horror draw for them. They're scoring. I mean, I tend to think overs might be interesting, but Shakhtar, if they get in front, they could control the game. They're still a team that will have all of the ball in a situation like this. Do we go in again at Shakhtar, or are we leaving this one alone?
Yeah, leaving it alone this week, Dan. A lot of it for me last week was down to the pricing. I felt that it didn't really take into account Shakhtar's form so far this season, where they've done pretty well, and Panathinaikos are one of those sides who've not started their season. So I liked it last week. Had Shakhtar won that game last week, I maybe would have been tempted to back them again this week, which is slightly counterintuitive because they wouldn't need to win it. But I felt it was fairly close last week, and they got the draw, which it looked to me like they deserved. But minus money at home, I know they're playing in Poland. Not quite for me, not quite enough on the price there. So I'm going to leave it alone this week. But I think the prices make a lot of sense. They should be getting through here, I think, on the second leg.
Yeah, Panathinaikos shoots, but they have trouble getting it between the pipes, says Brad. Yeah, that seems to be the case, doesn't it? They do shoot from all angles, all areas. Utrecht against Servette. Utrecht minus 250, Servette a 5-1 here, 3-1. The Eredivisie side won last week, and they thumped Heracles 4-0 at home in their Dutch top flight opener. Look, again, we looked at overs last week. I think the line was over 3, and it was minus 117, which cashed. But the market has just got a handle on it now. I mean, the overs line here is plus 117. Actually, you've got to get 4 goals to win your bet. What do you think, James?
Yeah, the lines make sense. Utrecht have started the season brilliantly, haven't they? I think it's 4 wins from 4 in all competitions, 14 goals scored, looking good. Obviously, massive favourites to go through after that 3-1 win in the first leg last week. One thing I would flag up on Servette is they do have a new manager in charge going into this game in Jocelyn Gourvenec, who is a French manager who's had a long and fairly solid managerial career in France. It would make me slightly concerned about backing the overs tonight on this game, that he is in charge here for the first time, because knowing the sort of manager he is, he's quite a pragmatic guy. And I think he will look at Servette's early season form, seeing they've conceded a lot of goals, including in the first leg last week. And I think the first thing he's going to do is try and stop them conceding goals. So I'm not saying he'll write off the tie in the competition, but he'll know they're already up against it by being 2 goals down from the first leg. And what he'll try and do, I think, is get that defense a little bit better. So obviously they need to win by 2 goals to go through. I think he will try and find moments to attack, but I think his sort of immediate and then short-term plan in the job, knowing Gourvenec, will be to try to make them a little bit more difficult to beat. So I'd sort of hold off on this game until we know a little bit more about what he does with Servette, because
So is this his first game in charge?
This is his. I think this is his first game in charge. And when he was in France, he was at Nantes and a few other clubs. He tended to try to make his teams really well organized before he did anything else. And I just think that he will be spending his first days at Servette doing that. So, yeah, like I say, yeah, he'll be a little bit torn because he won't want to write off the tie. I mean, it would be incredible, wouldn't it, for him as a new manager if they could produce a comeback win and go through here. But at the same time, in terms of what he'll actually be doing on the training ground, I think it's more likely to be trying to get the team that have conceded a lot of goals so far this season better organised. So it's one of those where when a new manager comes in, I'm slightly inclined to maybe give it 2 or 3 games and let's wait and see what he does with them. And for me, this game would be one of those to sort of take a watching brief on.
Look, we could be ahead of the curve here. All the stats are saying over, as you said, and I mentioned, every single game for Utrecht has been over 3.5. But just looking at where the money's gone with our Bet Rivers traders here, over and underline, 70% of the money on under, 87% of the tickets on over. Now, 87% of the tickets means it's all the public money, but the shrewd money, the big money, has come for unders. I mean, Utrecht are being backed as well. You just wonder, as you say, whether Gourvenec could go back to Switzerland. So, yeah, we were beaten 1-0, but we were much more, organised and blah blah blah. We might get I might have a bit of peak somebody on sort of, might even go under 2.5, under 1.5, and sort of play some sort of laddering down on that one.
I mean, it's a tricky one in some respects. I saw the comment there from Brad Brad Betts footy, which is spot on, really. He's got to overturn a 2-goal deficit here. So I think if you are Gorvinet going into the game, you don't want to give the players the impression that you don't want them to go out there and try and win the tie. To some degree, he's got to do that, right? Otherwise, why are they playing the game tonight? But I think just his underlying approach to his first sort of 4 or 5 weeks in the job will be to make a team better organised than they've been, because they've clearly conceded way too many goals. And I think some of that will definitely feed into this performance tonight, even if they are still trying to win the tie against all odds. So let's wait and see. But it just makes me slightly wary of backing the overs based on some of the goal stats we've seen for both these sides so far, because with one of the sides, Servette, we may see that start to change now.
Braga against Cluj. Let's get the prices up for this one. For you, Braga minus 345. Cluj a big price plus 850. James, you've got a lean on this one for us. I mean, Braga, it was their first game of the season, but they won it and they beat Tondela in their Primera opener at the weekend. They should win. There's no bet material for me, but you've got a little bit of a lean.
Yeah, I just noticed on the prices yesterday when I was looking through this that the both teams to score yes price on this game looked unusually big, I would say, at plus 138. It didn't really tie in with the over-under prices. There's normally a little bit more correlation between BTTS yes and the under-over line than I was seeing. So just one of those where you look at the top line stats from the first leg and you think, well, both teams scored there. Could it happen again? Again, maybe the tie state doesn't lend itself to that, because Braga are in the box seat here, having won the away leg, and they'd be quite happy to just sit there and let Cluj come at them, maybe defend that. So it's just a lean, really. There's not enough on it for me, but I think if that both teams to score yes price held up at plus money rather than minus money, then I think it's an interesting one.
FJ Football says, are you guys going to bet anything tonight? LOL. FJ, you don't know me. Don't worry, I'm betting the lot. But this game, the next game we're going to talk about, the last game we're going to talk about, and look, James has already put a Wolfsberger as like an official play.
Yeah.
So there's one for you. Come on, don't at me. And this game that we're about to put up, I will be heavily investing. Dave saying it was Shakhtar. Take the Wolfsberg drawn about. Yeah, look, this is the game for me tonight. Having banged on about it last week. If you were with us last Thursday, then you'll know that I was all over Legia away at Larnaca. Now, first of all, as I hope everyone will give me some credit for, first of all, we were on the right side of the market last week. Legia were plus 200 to win away when we started talking about the game. At kickoff, they were favourites. A's been on here. Surely Larnaca money line again. I knew someone bet that against me. But he said Larnaca's home form was great, and he bet Larnaca on the money line. Look, they won 4-1. However, look, as Will White will tell you, what do you believe? Do you believe the market movements? Or do you believe the results? I know what your account will tell you. You believe the results, but you've got to respect the way the market worked. So look, last week we were massively ahead of the curve. You could have got out with a profit on kickoff because they were sent off. What were they sent off? Plus 140, something like that. We backed them up plus 200. Legia are minus 182 to win the return. They're 4-1 down from the first leg. Right, they're 4-1 down. Just a reminder what happened in this game. I watched all of this game, throwing things around in my front room. They had a goal disallowed quite early on for a very, very tight offside call. And then Larnaca scored with a goal that was, again, very, very tight, but it was an offside thing that went in their favour. Then Nsami equalised 2 minutes later. Legia were favourites again. At half-time, they were favourites. Legia created more big chances than AK. Look, to overturn 3 goals is difficult. I'm not saying that, or sort of half saying that. Into the second half, Legia conceded again, and then they conceded 2 late on, including an own goal. Then they had a player sent off in the dying embers of the game. It was all going wrong for me. 4-1 down, and unfortunately, I lost my significant investments. Quite a few that were pressed up in play as well. They didn't deserve to get beat 4-1 by a stretch. They will almost certainly they will win the return leg. How do we go about trying to make some money out of it? Because minus 182 isn't much of a price. James has got a pick in this as well. This is not just me. James has got a pick in this as well. Look, I think Legia will win. I'll tell you what I'm going to do after James has talked his way through what he's going to do in this game. Give us your thoughts on Legia against AEK Larnaca, James.
And it was all independent as well, Dan. I sent you my pick, and we hadn't even talked about it, had we? So, I agree. I think Legia Warsaw are a great bet here because of all the things you've said from the first leg. You're right as well that the minus 182 on them to win the game holds little appeal because it's such a short price. So my pick on them is on the Asian handicap with a minus 0.75 goal start, which yesterday was minus 130. Now, as we're broadcasting, is minus 148. So there's plenty of support for Legia Warsaw. You may want to go minus 1 Legia Warsaw, which is minus 112 now.
Yeah.
With a minus 1 Asian handicap. But of course, you don't win. If they win the game by a single goal, you just get your stakes returned. The reason I like Legia Warsaw minus 0.75 on the Asian handicap is to get something of a profit as long as they win on the night. And I think either of those would be a fair way to play it. I think when you have a tie like this, we've talked a lot about tie state on the show today, but when you have a team who went into it as favourites to get through the tie, and they've ended up having everything really go against them. Yes, probably didn't play as well as they would like as well, but I think they go into the second leg thinking it's not over. I think they'll feel that nothing can go as badly wrong for them as it did last week. They're going to have better luck, and they will feel like they're the better side still. So they're going to go all out to win it. And I think the reverse is also true, that when a team is leading 3 goals from the first leg, and therefore they don't need to win, and they can lose by 1 or 2 and still go through, I think it does affect teams psychologically. So I think there's every reason to think that Legia Warsaw can get this second leg won on the night. And if that minus 182 on them on the money line is too short, as it will be for a lot of people, then just try to find a way to support them on the handicap or whatever line you like, because I think they should get the win on the night.
There you go. So James likes it. Cautious at 0.75 on the Asian line. I'm playing minus 1 on the Asian line at minus 112. I'm going to play minus 1.5 on the Asian line at plus 148, because you tend to think there might be a little bit of glorious failure here in terms of trying to qualify. A 2-0 win doesn't get them through to the next round, but it will cash a minus 1.5 Asian line. That's plus 148. And I'm stopping there, sort of. I'm not going to play minus 2.5. You play minus 2.5, it's plus 350. But if you play minus 2.5 and they win 3-0, then we're in extra time and penalties. Bet them to qualify. And as you will see, to qualify, they're plus 500. They're 5-1. So split your stakes. Make sure that, one bet pays for the other, and so on. Steve talked about laddering yesterday. You don't want to be left having a winning bet, but your other bets have, contrived to make you lose overall. So in terms of your bigger stake on your minus 1, and then not quite as big as your minus 1.5, and then to qualify, and you might get the lot. I'm going to play all 3 of those bets in this game. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff. I'll be watching, and hopefully I won't be throwing things at the TV set as I was last week. But look, we're on Legia and we're on Wolfsberger. Those are our 2 main plays. I'll ask James for his favourite of the 2 very shortly. We're just going to wrap up with, I say Conference League thoughts. No matches, James, to mention here, but you've just got some sort of musings on, I don't know how many games there are. There's an awful lot. There's an awful lot.
Yeah,
a lot of them are live on the site. What's your sort of thinking here?
Yeah, just a couple of stats from the first leg last week, because we're obviously covering the Europa League in far more depth at this stage than the Conference League. But 2 things that stood out from the first legs last week were that we only had 4 draws out of the 30 games played last week. I thought that was interesting. We've had some interesting comments on the show from people who do track the trends at this stage of competitions. It's an extraordinarily low draw rate, and I don't know if people noticed that or maybe have a reason for it. Second trend I noticed was that 21 out of 30 games went over 2.5 goals. Again, we've had some interesting comments about the goals rates between the first legs and the second legs and whether it gets higher. Obviously, it was already quite high last week on the first legs. And related to the goals, of the 26 games that ended in a win for either the home side or the away side, 11 of those 26 were by a margin of 3 or more goals. In other words, nearly 50% of the wins were not narrow wins. They were really comfortable wins. Now, does that mean that we have lots of mismatches at this stage of the competition? Will we see that again in the second leg? I don't know. But interesting trends, because all three were really things that when you get deeper into the competition and maybe you have more elite sides facing off against each other, you're probably a little bit less likely to see.
Yeah, good stats. Well worth just trying to apply that when they come into view in situations like qualifiers. You can get some significant trends. I always think Champions League qualifiers, both teams to score no, has been really profitable over the last few years. Good stuff on the Conference League. No bets on the Conference League as such. Watch out for the draws, maybe a bit of regression tonight. Best bet then, James, you put us a few leans as well. Just remind us what you're going to be betting tonight.
Yeah, so I've got the Wolfsberger tie-no bet is my first pick, my first bet.
That your best bet tonight, yeah?
My best bet on the night is actually the Legia Warsaw. Legia Warsaw on the night, minus 0.75 on the Asian handicap to win the second leg.
Yeah, and incidentally, 66% of the money, 60% of the tickets on Legia Warsaw to win that game. Incidentally, the money has come for Legia. Going for both teams have got parlay in the Hibs and Dundee United games. These are the conference. Yeah, I mean, look, for all the viewers, drop your conference plays in, because there's always a lot of sort of replay value, and I'm sure that people will want to know what some of the shrewdies that watch the show are betting tonight. Maybe think about being light today with your bets. So much more to look forward to as quickly as tomorrow, said Brad Bets Footy. This is very true, because we have got the Premier League show that is coming out in about 15 minutes' time. Myself, Nigel and Jack recorded that this morning. Really fun, really good fun, really good stuff. Looking ahead to all of the Premier League games that start on Friday. And myself, James and Steve, we're going to be recording it early tomorrow, and it's going to come out around about midday Eastern. Yeah. James, are you confident heading into the season? So look, you were the king of all of us in terms of your P&L. You absolutely wiped the floor with everyone.
It went well. Yeah, no, I am confident. But more than that, I just can't wait. I cannot wait to get stuck into a new league season, because, it was great last year. Fantastic fun doing the show. And we've done a lot of research over the summer, Stephen and you and I, so we're ready to go. So, yeah, really, really looking forward to it. I'm always confident that over the season, we can make a profit.
There you go. That's what I like to hear. Still to come, we've got Hardball with Doug and Wes. We haven't got a fast break today. EPL show will be released very shortly indeed. Betting Weekly Live will be back tomorrow. Yes, as Brad says, if you don't fancy anything, if you just want to, take a tug on the reins, that's absolutely fine. Yeah. Always bet responsibly. And Brad says Barca over all season long and twice on Sunday. We're going to be looking at Barca and Real Madrid a little bit more closer over the course of the season, Brad. So watch out for that on European show. From myself and James, though, that is your lot. Have a good betting day today. We'll see you tomorrow.